Last up, we're going to talk about Massmart, which trades as Game, Builders Warehouse, DionWired, Cambridge, and CBW. It is 51% held by Walmart and has a market cap of 25 billion rand, a PE ratio of 19.29, and a dividend yield of 2.6%. So these guys have pushed into the grocery side of things. I can't actually remember the brand that they've opened up within the Game stores, where they've sort of taken on Pick and Pay head on. But even within the macros, you know, you've got your macro card, you can buy groceries in bulk. I don't think they've really fulfilled the promises since Walmart took the big stake in the business.
Okay, but before I get onto Walmart, you hit on one thing with macro, and I've been around a couple of macros with them in the past couple of years, and I think macro has changed dramatically for the better, in the sense that they're now attracting people who are coming for smaller baskets and trolleys. In the old days, you had to go and buy these huge bulk things, and they've changed the approach. And you might be surprised by the quality of foods that they're selling in a macro. So I think that's good. But you're right, as when it comes to the promise we saw back in September 2010 with Walmart, it hasn't come remotely close, in my humble opinion, to what we expected from them. We expected far more than this, both in South Africa and into the rest of the continent. So in that regard, I'd say it was a profound disappointment.
And I think the fact that neither of us know the brand of their grocery division,
well, I was about to say,
speaks wonders. I think where the mistake was they opened those up within Game. Yeah. And I always felt that Game was their sort of worst brand within the division. You know, Macro is pretty solid. Builders Warehouse is solid. Yeah. But Game has lagged big time. So the lack of feet within the games has obviously meant that the grocery side of things has probably not received as much attention as they would have liked.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I suppose if you go back 20, 30 years ago and you saw Pick and Pay opening up its hypermarkets, the hypermarkets are not too dissimilar to what Game was trying to offer, I think, in terms of putting food into what was a kind of a discounter. But it just doesn't seem to have quite worked. Within the hypermarket thing, it works, and supercenters, as they call them in the US, same type of thing. So, yeah, this has been, it just hasn't worked from a strategic level, I don't think. I think maybe it's the placement. You go in there and you think, well, let's go and have a look at the TVs, and you have to go past watermelons and stuff to get there. And they get, no, it's not quite right. It's not quite working. And they've tried very hard, you know, to try and tweak it here and there. But unfortunately not working. Cambridge, on the other hand, I think is working very, very well indeed. I've been to quite a few of their operations in different parts, and particularly in the rural areas, and that goes very, very nicely. I mean, they've got a big price advantage in some of those places. But overall, yeah, it's a formula that just doesn't seem to be quite working. I mean, I think the acid test is if you go and ask a common or garden consumer out there, give me your food retailers. I don't think Massmart comes into their thinking, frankly. It just hasn't, or any of those brands that we've mentioned. It hasn't really come into their psyche.
So it feels like if you could strip out a few brands alone and invest in them, you know, maybe that would be a more compelling argument. You know, for example, if you stripped out Macro and Builders Warehouse and kept that as a separate business, I'd be more intrigued. But I feel like the others are sort of lagging. Their foray into the rest of the continent hasn't really worked, because again, they use the Game brand to push up into the continent. So just a few strategic decisions I don't think have gone their way. Hot or not?
No, I'm not hot on Massmart.
No,
definitely not.
Me too.